Hello everyone, I am Dr. Zack, and welcome to MedHub Research. In our last explainer, we covered how the respiratory system develops from scratch, respiratory embryology. If you happen to miss that one, I really recommend you go check it out. Today, we're diving into its incredible finished architecture, the anatomy of how we breathe. So let's kick things off with a question that might sound kind of basic, but the answer really gets to the heart of how this whole system is put together. It's going to set the stage for our entire journey today. And here it is, our roadmap, the respiratory tree. I know, it looks a little complicated, but all it is a map showing the path a single breath takes. We're going to follow it from those big airways at the top as they branch out smaller and smaller all the way down to the very bottom. Ready? Let's get started. Okay, so our journey begins on what I like to call the superhighway of the system. Its official name is the conducting zone, and it has a very specific job: to get the air ready before it reaches its final, critical destination. You can think of this whole zone as a super high-tech air treatment plant. It's not just a set of pipes. As air moves through your nose, your pharynx, and all those bronchi, it's getting warmed up, it's getting humidified, and it's being scrubbed clean of dust and other gunk. Now, because the main event, the actual gas exchange doesn't happen here, we call it the anatomic dead space. Now, here's where it gets really cool. If we could zoom right in on the walls of this highway, you'd see this incredible cellular lining. There are these things called goblet cells that produce sticky mucus to trap particles. Then you have other cells with these tiny hair-like cilia, and these cilia are always beating upwards, creating something called a mucociliary escalator that just sweeps all that trapped junk up and out of your lungs. It is a brilliant, built-in, self-cleaning mechanism. All right, so after its trip down the superhighway, our breath finally makes it to its destination, the respiratory zone. This is it. This is where the real magic happens, where the entire mission of breathing is finally accomplished. And this slide just lays out the difference perfectly, doesn't it? The two zones are built for totally different jobs. The conducting zone has this thick, tough lining to protect it and condition the air. But the respiratory zone, its lining is incredibly thin. It's a classic example of form following function. One is built for transport, the other for exchange. And the stars of the show in the respiratory zone are the alveoli. We're talking about hundreds of millions of these little, tiny balloon-like sacs. Their walls are just one cell thick, unbelievably thin, and they're wrapped in this dense web of tiny blood vessels called capillaries. This is the spot. This is the crucial interface where oxygen from the air you just took in hops into your blood, and carbon dioxide from your body hops out to be exhaled. So now that we've seen the microscopic details, let's zoom all the way out and look at the bigger picture, the lungs themselves. And at a glance they might look the same, but they actually have some really important differences. Yeah, at first glance you might think they're a matched pair, but they're definitely not identical twins. If you look closely at the left lung, you'll see this little indentation. It's called the cardiac notch, and that's a custom-made space that's literally carved out to make room for your heart, which sits just a little bit to the left in your chest. And that asymmetry keeps going on the inside too. The larger right lung is divided into 3 sections or lobes. The smaller left lung, on the other hand, only has 2. And this division is actually super important, not just for function, but for doctors when they're trying to locate a problem. So you might be thinking, okay, 3 lobes, 2 lobes, who cares? Well, it turns out this anatomical difference has very real consequences. Because the right main bronchus is wider and it heads downward at a steeper angle, it's basically a straight shot from your windpipe. And that's why, and this is the classic example, if someone accidentally inhales something like a peanut, it is far, far more likely to take a right turn and end up in the right lung. We've looked at the airways in the lungs, so the plumbing and the exchange surfaces are covered. But what's the engine that actually drives this whole operation? Well, that would be the diaphragm. The diaphragm is this huge sheet of muscle that separates your chest from your abdomen, but a few really important structures need to pass right through it, and there's a fantastic little mnemonic to remember what goes through where. I ate 10 eggs at 12. I stands for the inferior vena cava, which passes through at the T8 vertebral level. 8 is for the esophagus at T10. And at represents the aorta, which passes through at T12. Super handy, right? And here are the must-know facts. The diaphragm is the number one muscle you use for breathing in. It gets its instructions from the phrenic nerve, and that nerve originates from spinal roots way up in the neck, C3, 4, and 5. Now this leads to a really cool clinical pearl, because those same nerve roots also give sensation to your shoulder. If something irritates your diaphragm, you might actually feel the pain in your shoulder. The brain just gets its wires crossed. We call that phenomenon referred pain. So, there you have it. We've mapped the whole structure, from the nose all the way down to the diaphragm. We have the highway, we have the destination, and we have the engine. But that leaves us with one final fascinating question. What's the actual physical force that pulls air into this incredible system in the first place? Well, we'll explore that next time when we dive into the physiology of breathing. See you then.